And welcome to the Cinemondo podcast with Kathy, Mark, and Burk talking about movies.
As always, we never
always.
stop talking about movies.
Will you guys shut up? Talk about
movies. I know. It's like when we're at parties, we talk about movies and people just start wandering away because they know we will not stop.
They start backing up.
They're like, oh, God, here they go again.
Unless there are people, you know.
See, that's the way of weeding out the cool people.
Yes, exactly.
The cool people leave. The rest of them stay.
Well,
we're sort of with this episode, we're going to do another one like we have done in previous episodes where we're going to take a microscopic look at a scene from a movie that we like. Just the scene, like we're trying to think of scenes that had an impact on us in some way, or maybe something that's really meaningful or historical or controversial or just emotionally effective. Or just
and it's not even that we may even like the whole movie, and we may just like this one scene for whatever reason, and we will try and explain ourselves.
Right.
That's not the case with this. In the case of my clip today, I love the entire film. So,
well, Kathy, that's a good entree into.
Am I going to go first again?
Well, sure. Why not? Do you want to go first? Go first.
I'll go first. Okay, you guys are going to see this and go, we shouldn't have started with this. Okay.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
It's okay, Charlie. We're almost to the hospital, okay?
I just realized what this is.
That's a great thing. I'm getting kind of scared just watching my own clip.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Charlie!
It's a very quiet scene for the podcast. But it's so powerful. And that's what I'm going to talk about, actually, when it's done.
Amazing choice to just hold on this.
That's what it's all about, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very daring.
Yeah.
I love now he's just driving really slow.
Mm.
Okay, so that's probably not going to translate to our audio podcast. So definitely go to YouTube. But that was Ari Aster's Hereditary. That scene, when I saw this, I've seen a lot of horror movies, a lot of movies. They don't really affect me anymore. When I saw this movie, that scene, I felt like I was punched in the stomach. Like it was like, I mean, I couldn't breathe. I had to kind of like, what am I seeing? Like it was so stunning. And I think the choice, this filmmaker's first film, which is still blows me away, that he chose after a scene like that, this frenetic, crazy driving in this incredibly horrible, violent moment where, his young sister gets her head literally torn off by a phone pole when he swerves the car around a dead animal on the road. To choose to sit in the car with no sound, no music, and the lights behind him, like you just barely see the lights, and he's just staring, this stunned silence, and just his breath. Like you can tell when he just starts breathing again. I still am like, I almost want to hold my breath watching that scene. It's so incredibly powerful, and they don't show or do anything. They never show it. They never show the aftermath. I mean, that was such a bold scene to not go there. And it was kind of like, I think my favorite moment was when he's sitting there. It's the middle of the night. He's just in the car. Something horrible beyond comprehension just happened. He's starting the camera as his point of view starts moving up to look in the rearview mirror, and then he jumps back to the road because he doesn't want to look. We don't want to look.
Yeah.
Like I love that.
Camera
That's
has
how,
an opinion. It's great.
Yes. Yeah.
It just, I'm breathless just thinking about it. So that to me is probably one of the most stunning examples of horror I have ever seen, for just bar none.
That movie is a powerful. That movie to me has several scenes in it that I would consider as a favorite scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard to pick, but that was.
Well, that's the one. I mean, if you put yourself in that position, because you're in that car with him, and you're just, that you haven't had that happen to you,
right?
Hopefully, but you've maybe had stuff that's like freaked you out, or something happened that was like kind of jarring, and you just have to sort of collect yourself somehow and move on.
Yeah.
And he says like, all right. And he's sort of talking to himself like,
okay. And like he just kind of he's like, okay, I'm gonna get back in my body, because you feel like that would almost feel like you left your body and you're okay. I'm gonna come in here. I'm gonna pretend like this did not happen. Maybe I'll wake up. I get home and I'll wake up and this will have been a dream. You can just sort of see it all. He doesn't say anything. It's just these eyes, So what's the actor's name? Wolf.
Alex Wolff.
Alex Wolff.
Like the idea that your brain is struggling to process what just happened. I think that's
so well done.
That was the impression I got. Was he sitting there thinking, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to react. I don't know how to handle this. I don't know what to do. And I think that is a great way to depict that, where he's just like, he's blindsided and has no idea how to process it. It's like
everyone is
computing. Yeah,
that was great. Like you feel the same way because he's in siege mode. He's trying to save his sister. We think we're in the middle of the scene. She's like suffocating from an allergic reaction to peanuts. He's rushing her to the hospital. That's what we think the stakes are. No one expected that, and so I like when we're showing the scene, and when you guys all of a sudden comprehend what this is. There's just kind of like, oh shit! Oh god! Here comes this scene.
Yeah, I'm first thinking it's some action, like driving movie or something. They go, oh yeah. So
but I love it's not gory at all. It's pure emotion, and it's just they barely show anything, just enough so you know what happened, but it's not a gory scene, and you're just like it's probably the scariest thing I've ever seen.
To me, when I watched this movie, I was very lucky. I didn't know anything about it, and so I didn't know. I wasn't expecting that scene. And I thought that little girl was the main character in the movie. She's so interesting looking. She has such a cool look, and she was so strange and unique of a character. And she seemed to be when you think the title Hereditary, you think, okay, it's something about the mom and the daughter, the grandma, the mom and the daughter, this sort of,
and she's got problems.
So
you think she's going to be the bad seed or something. That's sort of the setup.
She's going to be a catalyst or a hero or a villain or something.
Yeah.
The son was kind of on the sidelines almost. He was not really registering that much.
Exactly. She was the star
of the
first
psycho in there.
She was totally Janet Leigh, like the first 40 minutes of the movie. She's sort of the focus. Yeah.
And this guy is 2 for 2. He did Midsummer and Hereditary, and they were both fantastic in totally different ways. I mean, this guy is a huge talent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Knows how to tell stories with a camera. And that's the thing. Like, you look at this and you think that idea of just holding on that face and that moment and sustaining that moment and sustaining the feeling. A lot of directors might have cut away from it, and you may not have gotten the experience as effectively or as powerfully. And the fact that we're in that car, like you said, you're in that car with him, you're almost him.
You're almost him.
Yeah.
Filmmakers did not give us any relief. Like you got to sit there with him trying to figure out what the fuck did I just see, and like, oh my god, I got to think about this. And then they don't save you by cutting away and giving a resolution. They don't save you by doing a happier moment the next day. It's like just you had to sit there and deal with it.
The movie
they don't even save you by having him make a decision. He doesn't even make a decision. He's just
gonna go home.
The movie is about dread. It's dread. It's that dread horror. Like you feel that for 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's a
Never
kind of an
seen anything like
it's
it.
kind of an onslaught, but it's
It is.
but it's a superb film. I mean, really
Yeah.
consider it one of the best horror films maybe
For
I've ever
sure.
seen. So
And I feel like we oversell it, but I don't know how else to talk about it because I'm so desensitized to everything horror and anything thriller. I mean, I've seen it all. So if anything even affects me remotely, I'm like, that must have been like crazy.
yeah.
This one got all the hype. They were.
Yes.
I remember before I'd seen it, people were comparing it to The Exorcist and Rosemary's Baby
And
and,
we're all
all
like,
these
yeah,
movies,
yeah.
and I'm like, nah, it's not going to be.
No
It's
way.
not going to be.
Amateurs.
But I put it in that category with those films.
Yeah.
I've seen it about 3 or 4 times.
Oh my
and it's one of
God.
those
How
ones
did you
where
do it 3 or 4 times?
Well, because you pick up so much. It's one of those
Yeah.
movies where he throws some Easter
So
eggs
hard
in
to
there,
watch.
some weird thing. It's hard to watch. There's no doubt
Really
I saw it
about
about
it.
5
Also-
times.
Yeah.
There's so much emotional pain. The whole thing is so much pain and so much agony and grief and like, it's so powerful. It's intense.
But I'll just say this, like there's an earlier shot of that telephone pole, and when you see it the
Yeah.
second time, you go, "Oh,
Yeah.
interesting." You
Not
don't.
an accident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So great stuff.
yeah. All right. So, well, I guess
Yeah.
I can go.
Let's make a
second.
little palate cleanser.
Well, okay. But before we see my scene, mine is. It's a movie that came out about 7 years ago. There's a recent film that came out that I didn't like. Same main character, and the reason I showed this clip is I think this director Gareth Edwards knows how to do a monster movie right. And this is a simple scene. Take it away.
Okay. We'll just add this in.
Not a lot of dialogue. Again.
Down they go. All right.
So I'll tell you why I like this scene. Godzilla seems really scary.
Yeah.
I think he's, just the shot of like they're Godzilla fighting something. I think that's the way Godzilla should be. He should be a little bit intimidating. I think the last movie, it was just kind of like they were just wrestlers, fighting.
Yeah.
And I think the way he directs, it's just, you get that sense, that there's something massive that's kind of intense. And that's what and I think it's just beautifully directed. I love the music.
Yeah.
I love the shots. So I just think he knows how to make a good Godzilla movie. And so,
And it's
What's
from
funny about
your
that-
point of view of those guys, as
Yeah.
they come through the clouds.
yeah.
What I think is interesting, and it's funny that we play these two in a row because I think they're very similar in a lot of ways, is that first of all, there's no dialogue. You just hear breathing. Like a lot of it feels
Right.
very intimate. And what they don't show. Like we
Yeah.
don't see a good shot of Godzilla. We don't see the big, like we see a shadow and maybe a little rim light, just barely there. It's like both of those scenes were scarier because what they weren't showing. They were more powerful because they were more intimate and inside the person versus this big spectacle like the new Godzilla that was just, I felt like the camera was really at a distance. I feel like it wanted to get everything in the frame. Like you never felt like you were part of the action. You always felt like you're outside. And in this film, in this little clip, you felt like you were going down there with them. You didn't know what you're going to find. They're landing. You're scared. You hear the breathe. It's so powerful just to hear that. Like there's no big, loud, bombastic music or roaring from Godzilla. Just some kind of like rumbling. Just a little bit of like, little rumble from him. But yeah, that's beautifully directed.
Yeah. You catch little glimpses of this thing, and you can't even really put together what it is. There's movement, and if you're paratrooping into the darkness like that, it's probably... I mean, you imagine people doing that during World War II or something. They come through the clouds, and suddenly you're looking around trying to figure out what's going on, and there's probably buildings on fire or something. And here it's a giant monster in the city.
Yeah, and you're in, like Kathy said, it's the point of view. You're part of that paratrooping team. So I just thought that's really
that was a great scene.
Exciting. So
yeah, that's a good one. That's a good movie. A lot of people complained about this movie. I remember the complaint was it takes a long time to get started. You don't see Godzilla until it's too long before you see Godzilla. And people would say that, and then they would say, I like the old Godzilla movies, and I'm
no,
like,
don't.
Then you don't remember the old Godzilla movies because they didn't have a monster
Gareth Edwards
up the front
directed
anyway.
Yeah.
They directed Monsters, right?
Yeah.
Gareth Edwards. And so that was another pure, perfect example, mostly budgetary, but it worked better. You don't really see a lot of the monsters. It was like really far away and maybe some distance, some shadows, some mist. You see little pieces. Way scarier than a beautiful big shot of friggin' King Kong standing up with a six-pack, walking around like a human.
Oh, well, let's face it. If there was some monster that was in Los Angeles or New York, you were not going to be right next to Godzilla. You might be 30 miles away, and you might go, "What is?"
You're gonna be looking over your shoulder as you run the hell away.
Yeah, you might catch a glimpse of it as you're screaming away from it in your car.
Exactly. Catching glimpses like
gas.
Yeah. So I think the 2014 Godzilla is the best of the recent Godzilla films. American Godzilla.
It should have got more love. It was great. Yeah. I mean, it did well, but it was still, some people complain, but there should not be complaining. It was great.
Plus, they had Bryan Cranston.
Exactly. Come on, people. More do you want? Well, you can have Skarsgård. That's All right. Burk, you're up.
All right, here comes mine, and guess what? It doesn't have any dialogue hardly.
Oh, Jesus. It's funny we both did. We all did that. That's so funny. So everybody, bear with us and just go to the YouTube channel if you want to see it.
Yeah, I think you need to really watch these on YouTube because they're, they're movie scenes, and I wasn't really thinking about it in terms of what would sound good. I'm sorry.
Yeah. We're doing what was a scene that we liked, not what's a scene we sounded like.
That's coming next.
Yeah, we'll do that next time. The best sound we ever heard in a movie. All right.
It's a little bit long, but I think it's enjoyable. All right, here goes.
Right off the bat. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're scared for everyone who walks by that.
I know, my God. It's another car driving. Ah!
Yeah. Yes.
I always imagine being an extra, an actor in a scene like this, and not screwing up.
Yeah. And now we're on somebody else. We picked up
Yep.
another focus.
Yep. Oh, and they're back.
Yep.
That's such a cool car.
Yeah. And you can
I love
tell
the
where
music.
it is by the radio.
Yeah. How far away it is.
Yeah. We're like 2 blocks away from where we started now. Yeah.
All one shot.
It's a rockin' town.
Yeah, it's like a lot going on.
That's for sure.
You folks are American citizens?
I am, yes.
Where were you born, miss?
Mrs.
What?
Philadelphia.
The name is Vargas. Hey, Jim. You see who's here? Sure, Mr. Vargas. Out on the trail of another dope ring?
Out on the trail of a chocolate soda for my wife.
Your wife?
Tail of your bride, officer.
Hey, can I get through? A lot of talk up here about how you cracked that Grandy business.
Yeah, we
hear you caught the big boss.
Only one of them. The Grandys are a big family. Good night.
No purchases, Mr. Lineker.
Hey, I got this.
You're American citizen, miss?
No, I got this ticking noise.
Yeah, okay.
No, really, this
Good
ticking
night.
noise in my head.
Mike, do you realize this is the very first time we've been together in my country?
Do you realize I haven't kissed you in over an hour? ¿Qué pasó?
No sé, un carro explotó.
Mike, what happened?
That car that just passed has exploded.
The car? How could it do that?
I don't know. I'll have to try to find out. You'd better not come any closer. We'll have to postpone that soda, I'm afraid.
Mike couldn't die.
Susie, please be careful.
Holy.
Charlton Heston.
Wow. Amazing.
That was
Gorgeous
pretty,
scene.
pretty amazing for its time too, because there's no digital blending or anything like that, no set extensions or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's it was choreographed.
One shot before it was hit.
It's choreographed with all the action, all the traffic, all the background extras, the camera movement on that incredibly smooth crane. There's also it almost ends on a dialogue scene with several people.
Right.
And it's composed beautifully. The guy in the background who speaks with them, with the Border Patrol agent and the people in the car, and Charlton Heston and her. It's like they're all lined up on their marks. The camera is in the right place, and then they go around behind the car, and there's another composition, and then the car drives, and then the camera swoops in, and they're walking out again, and she's talking about, do you realize this is the first time we've been together in my country? It's like so beautifully continuous. It's I like scenes like that. Sometimes they can be a little tricky, a little tacky. I don't know.
Well, I think of Brian De Palma, who did the obviously after Orson Welles, did it. But so this might be the first time. Maybe there are other scenes earlier in the film, that
there's some other
kind of
classic
stuff.
single camera shots, single shot shots. Even in the silent days, they did a few.
Yeah.
But this is, I think, one of the most famous one because it's got that element of suspense because they keep catching up with the car, and then the car goes away, and then they catch up with it again, and then it's far away, and then it moves towards the camera. It's like this, and then
Cat
there's
and mouse
people
game.
walking behind it, and then there's a car, and then our heroes are standing there right next to it, and then the woman is like, I got this ticking noise in my head. Hear this ticking?
So scary.
Yeah.
Horrifying.
Yeah.
Well,
was
Orson
fantastic.
Welles, a brilliant guy. That was like the last, I think, I don't know what he did after 59. I think it was 58 or 59 when this came out.
Yeah.
But this was sort of his last hurrah as far as a filmmaker, a director. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Such a shame.
I think it's really the last one where he was he was on his game, where
Yeah.
he was like really
Cared.
firing all cylinders,
Right.
or whatever the phrase is.
Yeah.
But I think he got really disillusioned with Hollywood, of course, and people made changes. There's all of his films seem to have like the definitive version where somebody went back and looked at Orson Welles' notes and tried to reconstruct the film. This film, likewise.
Yeah.
And, The Magnificent Ambersons is another film of his
Yeah.
that he was unhappy with the way it was cut. And,
Right.
it's a shame that such a, they treated him so good with Citizen Kane. I think, he said they gave him the best toy train a boy ever had and let him sort of have free reign over Hollywood. But then, of course, it was not quite as successful as it could have been if he'd been a little bit less daring with his subject matter and not offending the
Hearst
the
publications.
Hearst and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
History
Yeah.
might have been different. He might have been able to make a bunch of films on his own
Right.
terms. Like
Yeah, it's
Citizen
sad
Kane.
because then the studios stopped trusting him. And so
Yeah.
they felt like we can make it better. We can make it more of this or more of that. And they stopped trusting the artist. And then
Let's
that
get
we
Robert
ended up
Wise
with,
in here to cut this thing up.
Yeah. For Touch of Evil is kind of a low budget, sort of film. I mean, it was Universal, but it wasn't a big budget film by any means, but that is a classic, especially it opens the film, it's like,
Yeah.
what a way to open a movie, especially you see that, you go, my God, this is one continuous shot. We're kind of used to it now with Scorsese and De Palma, but still fantastic,
yeah,
beautiful
really
stuff.
good. So we all three did scenes that were a lot of information and not a lot of dialogue with just these
all
long
visual.
static shots. I know, so
Next time mine will be all about Eve or something,
I'm going to make
Right.
something really noisy and lots of dialogue.
Nice dialogue scene.
Yeah.
So
That's how we roll.
everybody, and if you have any suggestions, everybody out there, be sure and put your favorite scenes in the comments. And then maybe we'll talk about those and we'll name check you and we'll talk about whether it's one of our favorite scenes. They probably could be, you never know because it's very personal.
Yes.
And tell us, what your favorite scene is why. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
What makes
absolutely.
it so memorable to you?
We'd love to talk about it. So comment below, please.
And,
Yeah, be sure and subscribe.
and
And do that.
yeah, do those things.
So if you're on YouTube, comment. If you're listening on a podcast player, great. Keep subscribing and listening. That's awesome.
We really appreciate it. And thanks very much for checking in.
Thanks for joining us. We're going to do this again. It's fun.
Yes, it is.
Super fun. I love it.
Me too. All righty. Bye.
Take care, everybody. Bye.